Hi. As a private tutor, how do you negotiate your terms and conditions? Well, in this video, we'll be talking about the duration of the lesson, the teaching material to use, as well as the rate to charge. In the next video, we'll be talking about payment and cancellation. Stay tuned. Let's talk about duration. How long should the lesson be? Should it be for 1 hour or 2 hours? Well, it all depends on the student itself. How long can the student concentrate? And the other variable is the student's schedule. Maybe the student is very busy with swimming lessons, with piano lessons, and so forth. So if the student got a packed schedule, probably the student may be able to fix only 1 slot a week or probably 2 slots a week. So it all depends on the student's schedule. And in order for us to find out how long the lesson should be, very important for us to listen carefully. We need to listen carefully to what the parent is saying. And then you'll get an idea about the student's needs, the student's level, what the student is weak, and how much help that the student really need. And when we listen carefully, we'll be able to discern the student's behavior, and then we'll be able to decide whether to give the student for how long of a lesson that we want. So by listening carefully, we also need to be able to ask appropriate questions so that we'll be able to determine how long is the lesson. Next thing we need to determine is actually for how many lessons a week. Should we have 2 lessons a week or 3 lessons a week? Well, it all depends. If it's going to be an online lesson, probably it's only about 30 or 45 minutes per lesson. And if it is a home tutoring lesson, if you have to go to the student's place in order to conduct your tuition, you can go anywhere from 1.5 hours or 2 hours or even more. It depends on you. Like for me, during the holiday season, I can have up to 3 to 4 hours per lesson for 1 to 2 students for 5 days a week. So it depends on you. And if you are new, probably if the parents need to have 3 days or 4 days, or don't have any issue with that because you have no students. But if you have some students and another parent come along or another potential client comes and say that they want to have 3 slots or 4 slots a week, you might to go back a bit and consider. Why do I say that? Because the thing is that if you book 3 lessons a week or 3 slots a week, and all of a sudden if the student have to cancel, then or if the student stops suddenly, then you can imagine all of a sudden 3 or 4 slots a week is all wiped out. So it is good to be able to spread the risk if possible. So if you have like 10 slots a week and you have 10 different students, that would be ideal. So just in case one student stop or cancel, you still have 9 slots a week. So now let's talk about the second aspect, which is the teaching material. What sort of teaching material that we need? Again, we need to listen very carefully to what the parent has to say. What sort of need does the parent, how can we really help the student? Know what the child needs. Or maybe all that is needed is just to go through the school's textbook and the workbook, and probably that is sufficient. Or some parent may need a tutor to come over to help the student with their homework. Some of the students has a lot of homework after school, and maybe the parents may need us to be able to help them with their homework only. Or it may be a more advanced student where the student understands all the school work. So in order to help the student to progress further, we may need to get additional resources or additional workbook. So in this case, then we need to go to a bookstore in order to get the additional material. So we have to bear in mind that when we want to buy books in the bookstore, we have to make sure that it is in line with the national school syllabus, or it could be a Cambridge syllabus, it could be an American syllabus, or it can be a Singapore national syllabus. So we want to make sure that when we purchase books from the bookstore, that is in line with the school's syllabus. Okay, let's talk about the rate. This is an interesting topic. How much rate should we charge? Well, in order to determine the rate to charge, it really depends on the level of the student. So for the sake of simplicity, for our international audience, we just use a standard currency, maybe US dollars, okay? So let's say that for a primary school student, you would charge, let's say, 20 US dollars for per hour. So if it is actually a secondary student, then we would charge a higher rate. So if 20 US dollars for primary school, probably 30 US dollars for a secondary school. And then when it comes to group lessons, it is important. The rate is slightly different. Why is that? Because with a private one-to-one lesson, you are actually giving your full attention to only one student. Whereas with group lesson, you are actually distributing or dividing your attention between 3, 4 or more students. So say for example, if for a private student, you are charging 30 US dollars per hour. So for a group lesson, let's say a group lesson of 4 people, probably you may want to charge for 60 USD per hour. So if it is for 4 students divided by 4, we are looking at about 15 USD per hour. And when it comes to rate, each tutor have their own rate. They all charge differently. Why does each tutor charge differently? Because it all depends on their level of education, how many years of experience that they have, and then some of them, they have good reviews from previous students. So with good reviews from students, they have proven track record. So when that happens, they are able to charge a higher rate. So in order to get an idea what is the market rate in your country, it's just a matter of looking into a Google search. So when you do a Google search, and you can check the tutor websites. Inside the tutor websites, you'll be able to determine what is the market rate, and then you need to decide a rate that you are comfortable with. On this matter is make sure that you don't charge too low. So it should be higher than a tuition center. If you're working in a tuition center, maybe you're getting about $20 to $30 an hour. Then for private tuition, it should be higher. Why? Because with a tuition center, we have to understand that the owner of the tuition center, they have many costs to pay. They have to pay for rent, they have to pay for utilities, they have to pay for administrative costs, many costs for them to do the business in order to gain a profit. So that means they just have a portion of the income to be able to pay for staff or staff wages. So basically you're getting a smaller piece of the pie. Whereas as a private tutor, you get to have 100% of the profit. So logically speaking, your rate should be higher. Way to the student's place, and with one-to-one teaching, you're providing a higher level higher quality of service. So if you've been doing that for many years, you can add the word professional, higher level of professional service, because you are more experienced and you get to charge a higher rate. Because at the end of the day, a parent, a potential client will want to bargain with you because they just want to have the best deal there's around. That is understandable. At the same time, as tutors, it is good to stick to a rate that you are comfortable with and just stick with it. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.